Good morning. Welcome to this week's edition of Sports Talk here at the United States Sports Academy. I'm Dr. Simmelmacher. I'll be sitting in for Dr. Butler, which normally MCs this or whatever you want to call it. To my right is your left is Dr. Spradley, Director of Sports Management, and Mr. Ben Billman, one of our teaching assistants, is here. We're going to continue this week with our talk on the Olympic Games, but first we'd like to pass our condolences to the John Saunders family. He passed away last night. I just heard about it. Ben heard about it earlier today.
Longtime broadcaster at ESPN.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked over the whole thing after you told me.
Yeah.
I was like, I did not hear that.
It's breaking news all over, yeah.
Wow. 61 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what the cause of death was yet, so that'll be to be determined later. But we'll start with our Olympic talk. Obviously, I think we've got to start with probably the best Olympian ever, with Michael Phelps already winning his 3 gold medals. He still has 3 races to go yet. What are your thoughts on Mr. Phelps?
Well, Phelps, in my opinion, is the greatest Olympian ever. And, he has 21 gold medals. And just the performance on yesterday was just simply amazing, especially with all the media hype. He definitely rose to the challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. There were 2 moments that stuck out to me for Michael Phelps. The first was the stare down that he had of Laclos in the waiting room, where he was so focused in on what he had to do in that preliminary race. I mean, he had the scowl on. I mean, he was totally focused. And then the other one last night in the relay, his cap broke about 2 minutes before he had to get in the water.
Yeah.
And to turn around that fast, obviously, yeah, I agree. He's the best Olympian ever. But to just, get a cap from one of his teammates on the fly, get out there and perform at the highest level. I mean, imagine if, your shoes or something were ruined right before a race or a game and you had to switch shoes with somebody else. Maybe it's not that big of an issue, but it could alter, your psychological state. But for Phelps, it was smooth sailing.
You can tell it affected him a little bit, though.
It did, yeah.
He kind of turned
He was surprised.
He turned back like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And then he just said to his teammate, hey, I need to use your cap.
Let me get your cap. Yeah.
He just showed how focused he was, because all through social media they've been showing the picture of him and the South African swimmer and how focused he was on winning gold, and how the South African swimmer was looking at Phelps. And he didn't even end up medaling. So I think if he would have focused more on his race, maybe he would have gotten up.
We failed to mention that, but you just did. He didn't even get a medal.
Yeah.
I think what next is on the women's side, Katie Ledecky, and what she's done up to this point. Something that they threw out last night that I thought was very interesting and pretty telling. She's won 13 international. She's never been beat.
Wow.
In the World Games, and the South, anything that she's done with international athletes, she has not been beaten. What are your thoughts on this?
In the words of Michael Phelps, she's just a stud. She's 19. She's already won 200 and 400 meter freestyle, and her best event, she's the world record holder in the 800 meter freestyle. So I think she's a heavy favorite for that. So that'll be 3 gold medals right there.
And she blew them away in the 400.
And
broken Olympic record,
or
world record.
And the only competition at this point is herself.
Yeah.
I think she said it, or some commentator said it, that there's no other swimmer in her events that can keep up with her. So her motivation has to be continue to progress as an individual, try to beat her own records. But there's nobody that she's really competing against right now.
And it was interesting because I know one of the announcers mentioned about her possibly in the future getting into some of the sprinting events. Obviously, her biggest challenge was the 200 meter freestyle, and she won, but she really had to grind it out for it. But it'll be interesting to see if she's able to transition, if she's just blowing away the competition in the distance and middle distance.
Well, I think that's probably going to happen mean, she's only 19 years
Right.
old.
Yeah.
So maybe later on down the road, she's gonna have to do like some of the sprints, I would think.
Yeah.
But she's a stud, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
You know, next, let's talk about the men's basketball team. We'll get to the women next, but tonight they play Australia. Some very
That's a big,
familiar
big
faces from
Yeah.
the NBA on that team.
Well, you
What are your
got
thoughts on that, Ben?
Andrew Bogut and Matthew Dellavedova both just played in the NBA Finals. Obviously, Dellavedova got a title. Bogut got a title the year before.
Mhm.
This is really the first real test for the men. They struggled actually in their last game a little bit in the first quarter against
Mhm.
Venezuela.
Mhm.
I think it was tied for a while.
Yeah, they only won by 4.
But they did pull away. They
I'm
did
just
pull
kidding.
away. But they can't do that tonight against
No.
Australia. If they get off to a poor start or even just an average start, Australia has the stars that could
Mhm.
potentially keep with America and maybe not upset them, but make it really, really close.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting just because you have Andrew Bogut and you have even Patty Mills.
Yeah,
and Matthew
Patty Mills
Dellavedova's
as well.
playing good. I mean, I watched that France game. France played horrible defense.
Mhm.
I mean, Matthew Dellavedova and Patty Mills, they really exposed France defense. But I think it'll be interesting because Australia is going to show that they're physical, and the United States is really going to have to get through those rough patches with Australia's physicality. But I think it'll end up being a blowout, maybe 20 plus. You know, I don't think it'll be a 40 plus blowout like some of the other games, but maybe they'll win by 20,
Well,
hopefully.
if Dr. Butler was here, we'd ask him what the line is.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
not here.
And on a side note, in men's basketball, Spain, who was one of the favorites possibly to win gold or silver, is 0-2 right now.
Wow.
They lost on a block in their first game against, I believe it was Croatia.
Mhm.
And then Brazil, I believe, beat them on a last-second tip-in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they've lost 2 heartbreakers, but that could really affect their seeding once they get to the knockout round.
And then today at 1:30, our women's team, which has pretty much been dominant.
Mhm.
I mean, are we getting a little spoiled here with our basketball teams?
I
Ben,
think
what do you
so.
think? What do you
Yeah,
think?
the women, I see no weaknesses. Like I said, with the men, there was that little stretch there in the last game, but the women are just, Taurasi especially,
Mhm.
just phenomenal play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you look at the women's team from top to bottom, I think they're more dominant than the men's team because
Yeah.
pretty much you have the best of the WNBA. You have Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore.
Mhm.
You have so many great athletes that have been in the WNBA for a while. Then you have Brianna Stewart, who's just entering into the WNBA. So I think they're actually more dominant
Mhm.
than the NBA team because, the USA men's team, because you're missing some key NBA stars like
Mhm.
LeBron James, Stephen Curry,
Mhm.
Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul. So
Mhm.
even though we're deep, we don't have
Yeah.
the best in the WNBA.
You could probably compare the women's team this year to the teams back when Magic and Jordan and
Yeah.
you know when they said the best games you saw were at practice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The dream
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, the dream team.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, thus far, we've won 27 medals. 18 of those have come in swimming, which is pretty understandable up to this point. You know, Brandon's favorite is going to be starting on Thursday, tomorrow, right?
Friday.
Friday,
Yep.
the track and field's going
Oh,
to be
you
starting.
forgot about gymnastics last night.
Yeah, gymnastics. You know,
They repeated
they repeated their
women's, that is.
they're pretty dominant as well.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you watch the other gymnastics teams compete, I mean, they all have, you know, an individual here, an individual there, but our team is just a group of studs.
Yeah.
I mean, top to bottom. I mean, I was looking at the Allie Raceman and her floor routine, and then obviously Simone Biles. From top to bottom, they were precise. I mean, they really gave an amazing performance, and they called themselves the Final Five. And,
Yeah.
and it made Martha Caroli cry because obviously this is her last year of being the managing coordinator for that team. So it was just an amazing performance for all the women.
And now that you mentioned the Carolis, I mean, is it because of them where we've got? Because look, Romania didn't even make. They have one
One
competitor
competitor.
this year. I mean, Are they that big of a difference, do you think, or?
I think it's a combination of a couple things. Obviously, the coaching is phenomenal. But when you look back, the girls that are competing now would have been either youngsters or right around the time when Carrie Strug in that '96 team was really good. And so I think we're seeing the effects of that 20 years later of this generation that's grown up seeing all these gymnasts just dominate from America. And I know the Carolis, once they leave, I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like we've just got the ball rolling with women's gymnastics.
Yeah, I agree.
And they'll have their hands on it a little bit. I
I'm
would
sure.
think.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. We'll go, 7 o'clock tonight. We go to beach volleyball. Our women's team of Carrie Walsh Jennings and April Ross is their last, preliminary contest tonight. The last one, I think they played China, I believe, and it was pretty much a no contest. 21-15, 21-9, I think they won. What do you think the chances of anybody beating them?
I mean, they're ranked, I believe, third. But I mean, watching the preliminary rounds, I mean, they've obviously been doing amazing. I mean, Carrie Walsh Jennings is amazing. April Ross is a good team. I mean, with that combination of Carrie Walsh Jennings and when Misty was with her, obviously they won multiple gold medals. But I think April Ross is really holding her own. And I think they're favored to win gold, even though they're ranked third.
Yeah, they've been impressive so far. The biggest thing will be, I heard one commentator say that they're both very, very strong leaders. They're both alpha dogs when it comes to women's beach volleyball. So right now it's working because they're playing weaker teams and they're winning. But when push comes to shove, when they go against a big time competitor, who is going to take the lead, or are they going to start butting heads? We'll see what happens. But as of right now, it's been very dominant. Performance.
Just before I came up here, the 6th ranked United States men's beach volleyball team lost to Spain, I believe it was.
They lost.
Yeah, they lost to Spain. So they've got a little tougher road now to get to the final. I think they said
The
final
medal
12.
round.
Yeah, I think it's 12 teams move on, or is it 16? I don't remember. Did you say when you were talking about Ross and Walsh Jennings? Did you see the deal where last year the last Olympics they beat April Ross and the other girl, and then after the match was over, you see Walsh, she was planning ahead, and she whispered in her ear, "You and I are going to win the gold." Did you see that? Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting.
I think it's interesting that Ben mentioned that both of them are alpha dogs.
Yeah.
And I just look at Walsh Jennings as a legend.
Yeah.
She's a legend in that sport. So I really think when push comes to shove, she'll really take that leadership position. But again, April Ross is a stud as well.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming track and field. The 3 things that we talk about around here in the hallways and in offices are the 100-meter dash, the 200 and the 400. And Dr. Spradley is our resident expert. He ran with Karani James out at the University of Alabama. We're going to let him talk, and Ben can throw his 2 cents in. I'm not a track person. I'll be the first one to admit it. I know Usain Bolt, know about him, Karani James, because of you, obviously. And, Gatlin and some of the guys that run for the United States. Go ahead.
Well, I'll start off with one of the easier events to pick. And you mentioned Karani James, one of my former teammates. The 400 meters is set to start. The heats will start Friday, and the finals will be Sunday evening. And you don't want to miss the finals. And my top 3 medal picks are Karani James for the gold. For the silver, South African sprint sensation, who beat both of Merritt and Karani last year. His name's Wade Van Nurkett. And Rashawn Merritt for the United States. Those are my top 3. And you really see them pulling away from the field over the past couple of years. And I don't think anybody will stop them from getting in the medal stand. The only question now is what positions will those 3 be in?
Let the people know who Karani is running for.
Yeah, Karani's running for Grenada. How I know him, he I ran track for the University of Alabama, and he came in as a 17-year-old freshman. And obviously coming in, never having lived in the United States before, coming in as a 17-year-old starting college is really an adjustment for him.
Sure.
And so me and a couple of other teammates helped him
Took him
adjust.
under your wing.
Yeah, but he left college after his sophomore year. 2011, he won the World Championships. In 2012, obviously, he won the gold medal in London. So he's set to defend his Olympic title, but he really has some stiff competition, especially with the South African runner who, again, beat both of them and ran a personal best of 43.48. So,
What do you think, Ben?
Well, I was going to ask you, Brandon, as far as the 1, the 2, and the 400, do you think there will be any world records set in any of those events this time, or will you have to see the preliminary rounds to see what people are running?
I'll really have to see the semifinal rounds. I don't think a 100-meter world record is set, because the only person that I think could break Bolt's world record is Usain Bolt. But 9:58, that is an amazing performance. I don't think anybody's in that type of race fitness.
Yeah.
The 200, it'll be interesting because Bolt has been adamant about saying he wants to dip under 19 seconds, which would be an amazing feat. But again, I don't think he's in that type of shape to do it right now. The 400 is interesting because I picked Karani James to win the gold. But if anybody is close to break the world record, it would be the South African guy, Van Nurken, because he has the closest time. So I don't think any world records will be broken, but I think you'll see some amazing times.
Yeah, and going to the 100, I watched the video of last year's World Championships where Gatlin had the lead, or it was very close, and he kind of stumbled or he lost his footing or something the last few meters.
And what I think it was, because with the 100-meter finals, with the World Championships and the Olympics, the semifinals and the finals were ran on the same day.
Okay.
And I think he ran the semifinals too fast. He ran a good time in the semifinals, and you really saw the last 10 or so meters, he kind of stumbled, and I think he kind of gave out of gas.
Yeah.
And that's when you see Usain Bolt put the pressure on the entire race, and you saw that 6.5 frame just leaning about 100th of a second. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pick Gatlin for the 100. Yeah. I think he's going to redeem himself from last year. And but I think it's going to be really close. Gatlin and Bolt, it will come down to the very last hundredths of a second. But, you know, I love Bolt. I love what he's accomplished, his world records, you know. He does have the kind of flash and the he's kind of an actor off the track. But I think it's time for an American to win the 100 again.
And I agree, and please forgive me, all track and field fans. Please forgive me, because I wrote this in an article. I think it's a track and field sin to go against Usain Bolt in a major championship final. But my top 3 picks are Justin Gatlin for the gold, Usain Bolt for the silver, and a young and upcoming runner, Trayvon Bromell, for the bronze. So I agree with Ben on that one. And I know it's an unpopular pick with all the controversy, but only time will tell.
Yeah, and I've got Bolt in the 200. Is there any competition for him in the 200?
I think his best competition is Justin Gatlin.
Okay.
Sport Illustrated came out with their top 3 picks for all the events for the Olympics, and they chose Usain Bolt, obviously, but they didn't have Gatlin on the medal stand. And I think the only one that can even challenge Usain Bolt in the 200 meters is Justin Gatlin. But I think Bolt, especially if he loses the 100, it'll be a shock. But I don't think he's losing the 200, because that's his main event.
Yeah.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the girl from Hungary, where her husband is her coach
The swimmer.
now.
Yeah.
She's a swimmer. She's won the 100 and 200, or the 200 and 400 IM, and the 100 backstroke. She had won 13 medals, I believe it was, or is, in international competition, and her closest medal was in 12. She got 4th place in the backstroke.
She
She's won 3 gold
Yeah.
thus far, and everybody's saying it's because of her husband. She's 27 years old. You know, he's pretty animated up there in the stands, but that's a wonderful story as well, even though she's from another country. But that's a great story. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, kind of adding on that, you see that the husband who, you know, is going crazy, cheering in the stands, and then you see Michael Phelps' fiance and his son, and And then last night I was watching the gymnastics and Allie Raceman. Her
Her
parents were in the
parents
stands.
are funny.
They were so nervous
Yeah,
during her
always.
routine.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see the parents and the different emotions that they have, and or significant others, wives or fiancés or husbands. To see kind of the background stories on these athletes is really cool.
Yeah. And just to add to that, you saw at the swimming finals on yesterday, the U.S. men's basketball team was there to
Yeah.
support
Support each
USA
other.
Swimming, Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky. So I think it's awesome when different teams go to and
Support
cheer
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a
Support.
celebrity sighting. Matthew McConaughey was at the swimming events.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
You want to wrap up with the medal count? Because
Sure.
now the United States is ahead of the next closest country by 10 medals.
Yeah, we're at 27, and then China's at 17, Japan 14, and Russia 13, and then everybody else is
And the host country
below double digits. The host country, Brazil,
Has
has
two.
two,
Yeah.
a gold and a silver.
Yeah.
The little gymnast from there's pretty exciting too.
Yeah.
She's like 4'5"
Five
or something like that.
Yeah.
But she does really well.
Mhm.
Next week, we're going to talk also about the Olympics. They'll be close to winding down. We'll have a lot more grasp on the track and field and who's won the gold medals in basketball and all the different sports. So we'll continue that next week. Please, if you have any suggestions or comments or anything, please send those to sportstalk@ussa.edu. We're signing off today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week at 11:30 Central Time.